we're back. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and I usually have a co-host, but today I'm writing solo. Gilbert Manzano is still um, he's still out on leave. He should be back in a couple months. We'll let you guys know. But I wanted to make sure we did a show today because we're getting ready for the NFL free agency tampering period on Monday. So I wanted to make sure we got all the news and notes, everything that's been going on for the past month since we've been gone. And so here I am. We're gonna go through everything that's happened since the season ended, as I talked about, and we'll get into the top three offseason priorities for your Los Angeles Rams. So let me know. That'll be our engagement question of the day. Is what are the top three offseason priorities for your Rams? Let me know what you think. For me, I'll say it right off the bat. There's three of them. It is you need an X receiver. I would like for them to take care of Kobe Turner to do an extension. I thought one of the things you need to start kind of thinking about for this young Rams team is that you need to take care of some of your young guys right off the bat instead of waiting around to take care of extensions. Kobe Turner, Puka Nakua, guys like that. I would like to see that happen this offseason. And then the last one is you got to upgrade with the cornerback position, whether it's somebody to come in and either through someone like a Shabarius Ward, some of those guys that are out there in free agency, or even with your first round pick, there is the corner out of Texas that I really like. That'll be someone to keep an eye on. But yeah, those are my top three priorities of the Rams during the off season. But there's a lot to get into. Like I said, it's been about a month. I know a lot of people have been asking, "Hey, when are you guys going to get back into it?" I wanted to make sure that we got a show in. And so here we are. Let's start off right off the bat. If you guys we already have a comment, which was awesome before we even started. I don't know what happened to it, but it looks like it's gone now. Oh well, let's get to the Rams offseason news. And right off the bat, I mean, the news just keeps coming. Usually we get a quiet offseason from the Rams, but they've been since their playoff loss to the Eagles, they just been, it seems like every day there's new news that has to do with the Rams. Today, another thing dropped. Tutu Atwell and the Rams reach an agreement on a 1 year, $10 million fully guaranteed contract. I was really surprised. We talked about it during our last show of the season after the playoff loss to the Eagles. We didn't expect Tutu Atwell. At least Gilbert talked about it. I think he thought the experiment with Tutu Atwell was done, but I understand why they did this, especially if you're not bringing back Cooper Kupp. This makes sense. You can never, and it just feels like they don't want to give up on Tutu Atwell just yet. And just paying him $10 million makes a lot of sense. So I understand why he will be back next season. It's just a 1 year deal. It doesn't. And then the other thing too that you have to keep in mind that I thought is something that'll be kind of interesting as we go forward here for the next week is the fact that the salary cap has gone up to almost $280 million. And so I thought for a little bit that there was a chance that Cooper Kupp could be back for that reason, that the salary cap was going up. But I think within the last 2 days, we've gotten two different responses from Sean McVay and then from Leslie, which I'll get into. So that'll be something to kind of keep an eye on too. Is the fact where do the Rams spend their money? They have around $57 million in cap space. Is it 55 actually? And this is before the deals that I'll talk about that they've already come to terms with outside of Tutu Atwell. Another news item that happened yesterday was the Rams announced the release of cornerback Trey Tomlinson. He was someone that I had big expectations for because he really did well. That also tells you about preseason games and how some players really stand out, and then when it comes to the regular season, it doesn't mean anything because Trey Tomlinson was one of those guys. I think his biggest thing with him was he got a lot of penalties, and that was a big issue for the Rams. And you kind of never saw him last season. I think he got hurt, and you never heard from him. It sounds like this was a mutual parting of ways. So I wish Trey Tomlinson the best of luck, but just things didn't work out for him here with the Rams. And then let's start off. Let's go way back to when the season ended. I want to start there, and then I'll work my way back in terms of the news and notes that we've gotten, because we'll get into the Jonah Jackson trade. We'll get into um, the Matthew Stafford stuff. We'll get into all that, but I want to make sure we start way back, to right after the playoff loss to the Eagles. And the first thing that the first set of news that we got right off the bat was, and we were at Super Bowl Radio Row when we got the news, was Cooper Kupp was informed by the team that they would be seeking a trade immediately and working to find the right landing spot. So this was made public in a tweet on February 3rd. We were at Radio Row when this news broke. We had uh, LA Times beat reporter what was why am I we had a reporter on with us, and Gary Klein. Sorry, I just had a blip there. We had Gary Klein on from Super Bowl Radio Row, and he said he expected Matthew Stafford to be back and Cooper Kupp to probably be gone, and sure enough, that has happened. Although on Monday, I think it was, or Monday or Tuesday, McVay met with the local media and then made the rounds, which was, I thought was kind of weird. He made the rounds with the national shows. He was on the Pat McAfee show. He was on the Dan Patrick show, and the biggest news out of that was that when he met with the local media, he said, "I would never speak in absolutes." When he was asked about whether Cooper Kupp's return was possible, should the team not find a trade partner. So that was kind of weird. And then yesterday, Les Neat, then the GM of the Rams, met with the local media via Zoom and was asked if Cubs roster's bonus due next week, which is it's not next week, it's the week after on Monday. It's on St. Patrick's Day that he has a roster bonus of around $7 million due. If that would weigh in on the timeline for the situation, he said, quote, "It does provide a deadline for the Rams to get some resolution." So he also added that a Cup return in 2025 was least likely. So I think we've seen the last of Cooper Kupp in a Rams uniform. And then in the next, what is it, week and a half, we should know what the resolution is, if whether he ends up getting traded or they just straight release him before he's due that roster bonus on March 17. I don't expect him to it, and they both McVay and Les Need have both been asked whether he would be they would ask Cooper Kupp to take a pay cut. It does not sound like that is something they want to do. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But I think we've seen it's pretty evident that we've seen the last of Cooper Kupp in a Rams uniform. Um, and then from there, it's been, like I said, it just continues with the news. The Rams will be the designated home team for the NFL's first game in Australia for 2026, for the 2026 season. So it sounds like the Rams are heading to Australia. And it was weird because right before this came out, it sounded like it was going to be Rams versus Eagles. And then the Eagles were asked about it. The owner, Jeffrey Lurie, and then he said, "We're not giving up a home game for our trip to Australia um, or any game outside of the U.S." but I thought it was for 2025. Turns out it's for 2026, and the Rams will be the designated home team for that matchup. The opponent has not been announced because that is still a year away. So not next season, but the year after, they will be heading to Australia, which kind of sucks because you lose a home game and then you're having to travel overseas. That'll be something that I'm sure not a lot of people are going to be happy. And I know that the NFL is really trying to push to their international games. I mean, they've gone to Mexico, they've gone to England, Germany, and now the Rams will be the first team to, and another one will, and whoever they end up hosting will be in Australia. So that'll be something to look forward to in 2 years, or next year, I guess technically. Another thing that happened was once again teams are poaching Sean McVay's coaching staff, and like we talked about it on our end of the season episode where it sounded like they weren't going to lose any coaches on the coaching staff, but they ended up losing two of them. The big one was passing coordinator and tight ends coach Nick Caley. He leaves the Rams to become the Texans' new offensive coordinator. So he'll be with CJ Stroud. That's a great job opening there that for Nick Caley. I think that was the only way he would leave Sean McVay's staff was if uh, he got a better job. And yeah, I mean he's been praised. I know he was with Bill Belichick for a while there. They tried getting him. I know Sean McVay had tried to get him to pry him away from New England for a couple times, and then even I think Josh McDaniels when he was with the Raiders, he tried, and then it wasn't until Bill Belichick got fired by the New England Patriots that Sean McVay was able to reach out and get him, and so he praised him a lot, and so he was someone that was next in line to be an OC, and he landed in a good spot. The other assistant that left was the Rams assistant D line coach AC Carter was hired by the Panthers to be their new outside linebacker coach. I know he's also another one that a lot of people talk about inside the Rams, and so he's going to be a huge loss, especially with you see how well the linebackers played, even though they were undrafted guys. He was somebody that a lot of people talked about, and especially on the D line, and then with the linebackers too. So, AC Carter is going to be someone that they're also going to be missing that left for a better job. And then I think the other one that kind of people are now talking about, especially with what you're seeing from the Jaguars today, with the last 2 days, with all the players that are being released. Rams director of scouting strategy, the last couple years, James Gladstone, who's 34 years old, was hired as the Jaguars' new GM. And as I said, he looks like a 20-year-old out there, just like when what happened with Sean McVay when he was hired by the Rams. He looks like he could be mistaken for a high school guy, but he's put in the work. He's someone that has done really well in terms of finding a lot of those guys that you've seen the last 2 years be drafted. So uh, good luck to him. But he's going to be someone to keep an eye on for the next couple of years and how he builds things with the Jaguars. But yeah, and then one guy that I wanted to bring up and so while the two coordinators left, the passing coordinator Nick Caley and then D line coach AC Carter left, the Rams announced the promotion of to pass coordinator of Nate Scalasi, I think is his name. And the reason I'm bringing him up is because during that local, when Sean McVay made with the local media, he was someone that he brought up, and he spent, I think it was about 4 or 5 years at Iowa State, and he's someone that you need to keep an eye on as a future OC in the NFL. He interviewed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for their OC job after their OC left to be the head coach of the Buccaneers. So that is someone to kind of keep an eye. Don't be surprised if either next offseason that is someone that is highly sought after by a lot of teams to be their either their head coach or their offensive coordinator. But shout out to Sean McVay. His coaching tree just continues to grow, and it'll continue to grow because they've been successful everywhere they've gone. I mean, you look everywhere on the league, his footprints are all over coaching staff. So, yeah, that's well worth it. Now, the last couple, the news that everybody has been talking about for the past week, and that is Matthew Stafford. So that started right around when the combine was going to begin. I thought it was really interesting that it also tells you that there's not a lot of hype, there's not a lot of buzz around this draft class, that to the point where Matthew Stafford and his agents were given permission to talk to other teams about a potential trade. And then you just started hearing the speculation as the combine went on. And part of it is because this draft class, it has a lot of starters in it, but there's not that, cornerstone guy. Yes, I understand that you have guys like Shador Sanders, you have other guys on in this draft, but there wasn't a lot of buzz around their tour until the end, and a lot of it was because Matthew Stafford's future kind of took over the combine, which I thought was really interesting. And then, of course, uh, the Rams and Stafford came to terms on parameters that gave the quarterback a significant pay raise from the 27 million salary that he was due this upcoming season. So it sounds like it's going to be a thing every off season between the Matthew Stafford and the Rams. It is just something as a Rams fans you're going to have to get used to until the Rams finally move on. Listening to Les Need's um, listening to his press conference with the local media yesterday, they're going to start looking. I would be shocked if they don't come out with uh, a quarterback in this draft. There's not guys that are going to wow you, but there are guys that are serviceable. And honestly, with the way Sean McVay runs things, I would not be surprised if they draft a guy in the third round. And because remember, they don't have a second round pick as of right now because of the Braden Fisk trade. And so I could see them with their second pick in the draft, drafting a quarterback, maybe even in the fourth round. But I would not be shocked if they don't come out with a quarterback that they draft in this upcoming draft. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. But at least for now, there won't be any distractions about Stafford's, contract this season. That'll be something for next offseason. And they've even admitted this. I think part of it too that you have to keep in mind is that they're going through this thing where they're in year three of kind of rebuilding this roster. And so they're trying to figure out whether or not they they want to pay they're not going to pay Stafford or in terms of a multi-year deal. They're not going to do 2 or 3 years. They want to do it year by year because when they need to pay the Kobe Turners, the Puka Nakuas, like all those guys, when it comes time to that, they want to have a rookie on it. They want a quarterback on a rookie deal, or they want a veteran bridge guy that can get them to their next, franchise quarterback. So that'll be something that you're gonna have to deal with as a Rams fan going forward until they're each each e- each side is ready to move on, that with Stafford and then the Rams. So I thought it was really interesting the fact that I know the Giants apparently were willing to not only give him the contract, Matthew Stafford, the contract that he wanted, which was a 2-year deal around 90 to $100 million guarantee, and then they, as far as I know, they were willing to trade the number 3 pick to the Rams, and then the Rams just did not make sense for them to move on from Stafford at this point. And I mean, especially when you were the team that came the closest to beating the Eagles last season, why not, come back with him and make sure that, I think the next thing too, in terms of, I wouldn't call it a priority, but I would try to re-sign Jimmy G just in just in case Matthew Stafford. We saw what happened 2 years ago when they didn't have a legit backup to Matthew Stafford. You need to have a veteran backup, and I think you can get. I don't think someone's going to be out there looking to sign Jimmy G to be their starter. So I think you can afford, especially now with the amount of money that you're going to have because of the bump up in the salary cap. He is someone you can afford to pay, you know, bargain payment for in Jimmy G. So hopefully Jimmy Garoppolo is back to be the backup for uh Matthew Stafford. But there's going to be some guys, and even if he doesn't come back, there's going to be some guys you can go out there and get. And we've seen what uh we've seen what Sean McVay can do with any quarterback, but he has to. I think you need one with an experience. You can't just go ahead and get an outdrafted guy and just put him out there to be the backup for Matthew Stafford. The other news was left tackle Alaric Jackson and the Rams have reportedly come to terms on a 3-year deal, $57 million contract with 37 million guarantee. So the left tackle now is in place. You don't have to worry about, and that's a good thing. I mean, he showed he's gotten good. He's gotten better every season he's been in the league. He was, and I'm happy that the Rams took care of one of their own. If you develop a guy, you should want to bring him back, and especially someone that isn't going to cost you that much. I mean, uh, 37 million guarantee for a 3-year deal for a left tackle. That is a really good price. That is a bargain nowadays with how the prices are going up for your left tackle and your right tackle. So bringing back Alaric Jackson was a really good positive thing. And the other thing too, in free agency isn't going to be you're not going to be able to find guys like Alaric Jackson, and so to be able to make sure that you kept them and you brought them back, that was big because as we've seen, a lot of teams are either tagging. There was 2 guys that got tagged. That was T Higgins, and then the guard from the Chiefs was also tagged, and so there's not a lot of offensive linemen out there that you're going to want to get, especially at the left tackle. Ronnie Stanley is going to cost you about $20 million, and he's often hurt. Alaric Jackson missed those 2 games with a suspension, and then played the rest of the way and didn't miss any much action. So, and he's been pretty much healthy, and so you want to reward the players that you've helped develop. So, and then the other good news is that Rob Havenstein and right tackle Rob Havenstein will be back in 2025. So your whole offensive line is now set. Uh, which is a good thing. So you'll have the same starters going into next season. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they can all stay healthy. But as of going into training camp and all that, you should have your starting offensive line from last season. And one more in terms of guys that are back. That is Tyler Higbee, the tight end. He's also going. He's also entering the final year of his contract. So and then also, with the knee injuries and all that, there was speculation that he might retire as well. So tight end Taylor Higbee, he'll be back. And we saw how big he was once he was back and what he meant to this offense. And so having him start the season, from training camp on will be a huge lift for this offense. Um, and so, yeah. And then the last one, of course, talking about the offensive line, was that the Rams traded perhaps one of the biggest busts they've had outside of the wide receiver that they paid. I'm blanking on his name right now, but the guy they signed from the Bears. It's funny, the Allen Robinson. Outside of that, that one was one of the biggest free agent buzz the Rams have had it the last couple of years. The other one now is Jonah Jackson. The Rams are trading Jonah Jackson to the Bears for a 2025 six-round pick. He reunites with Ben Johnson in Chicago. So the Rams in total paid $16.5 million for 1 year of Jonah Jackson, and when he in which he only played 4 games for the Rams. So, and then Chicago is set to pick up the rest of Jackson's contract. That saves LA $14.6 million in cap space. So, yeah, the Rams will have some money to spend. As of right now, as I said, they have around $55 million, but that's before the deals with the reconstruction of Matthew Stafford's contract, the Tutu Atwell for 1 year and $10 million, and then you also have Alaric Jackson's new contract. So as of right now, we have those haven't been added because the league year hasn't officially began. That the new league year starts, I think, March 12th. So we'll know what the numbers look like once the new league year opens up on March 12th. So as of right now, they have about $55 million. So that was part of the reason why I was saying that one of the priorities, if I'm the Rams, is I would start wanting to take care of some of my young players. That way you get ahead of it. And I'll talk about why you want to do that. But that is all I have for. There was a lot there. I know Rams offseason news and notes. It's been about a month, so there was a lot to cover there. Thanks for staying with me here. And then now that we'll move on to the Rams offseason priorities. And like I said, for me, one of the reasons I talk about this is why I'll start off with my number one is Kobe Turner. I would start working on a Kobe Turner extension if I'm the Rams. One of the things that you're going to see during this offseason is you're going to see a lot of teams say we want to mimic the model that the Eagles have, what they did with against the Chiefs, right? You want to build through the trenches, and then that's always what you want to do in the first hand. Like the Eagles have been really good at doing that. They build their offense, their offensive line, and their defensive line, and yeah, that's great. They've been able, but you also have to hit on those, and the Rams have been able to do that. The problem with the problem with the Rams is that a lot of their guys that they have that they've been able to hit on are guys that are that were drafted in the second round and beyond. But one of the models that I like that the Eagles have done is that they pay their guys early. They make sure that, hey, if they see that a guy is gonna break out, they make sure they extend them right away so that way they get them on a cheaper deal. This is why you have guys with you see teams like the Cowboys and the Bengals. You have Dak Prescott, you have CD Lamb. They wait till those deals are almost about to expire and then they decide to pay them, and then you're on the hook and having to pay more than you should have if you had taken care of that player. That's why if I'm the Rams, I try to take care of Kobe Turner, Puka Nakua. I know they just finished their second season, but you want to make sure you get ahead of it. That way, it's a cheaper deal and you take care of your own guys. And so that would be my number one priority going into the offseason. If you can identify some of those young guys that you want to pay early, you should do it now. Now, my number two priority out of the three is sign a veteran cornerback, someone like a DJ Reed, a Trevarius Ward, a Byron Murphy Jr., or even draft a Jade Barron, the cornerback out of Texas. I feel like you really need to start, mm, you know, emphasizing and make sure that you take care of the secondary, especially when you have that package with those that front that vicious front that we saw get 10 sacks against both the Vikings and the Eagles. We know that pass rush is legit. I would want them to start taking care of some of those their cornerbacks. It's time to upgrade their secondary. I like their safeties. I wouldn't mess with that. But in terms of getting a number one corner, I would go ahead and make sure that I get. You have to make sure you get one of those either via free agency or via the draft. And there's a lot of guys out there. Another thing too that if you remember, the Eagles really hit on their offseason, and one of the ways they went about it, fixing their secondary, is they went out there in their first 2 picks of their draft, they went and got their 2 cornerbacks, their 2 young cornerbacks, and so that is something where you can if you know, if we know the Rams don't wanna pay for their defense, eventually you're gonna have to with a guy like Kobe Turner, but if you're gonna spend your top picks in this draft, your number one pick. I feel like in the first round, if they can trade back and try to get a second round pick or maybe even another third, you can do that. But if like a Jade Barron is there, you try to draft and that way you have your number one corner on your team. My number 3 priority for this team it has to be, getting an X receiver. Maybe you can go out and get, a Devontae Adams, someone like that, or maybe even draft a guy if that's not the case. If you wanna do it through the draft. We've seen how good the Rams ha have been at drafting receivers. We know they have there's specific guys that they like that they go and they target. That's why they never show up to the combine is because they want to make sure that because they look at tape. They don't really care about measurables, and so we'll see what kind of guy they can find. But my number 3 priority for this offseason for the Rams is finding an X receiver. We've seen Devontae Adams talk about him wanting to now that he's been released by the Jets, him saying that he wants to play out on the West Coast. So that'll be somebody. I doubt that I know that a lot of people are going to want to say that DK Metcalf is out there, but that's a steep price to pay, and I doubt that the Seahawks are going to help you land the receiver that you're looking for. So uh, they're not going to trade in division. So I'm sure the Rams are going to start looking to get aggressive. But they really need an X receiver on this team, and that'll be somebody like I said, Devontae Adams. There's other guys out there that you can go and get, but those are my top 3 priorities for this offseason. Extend some of your young guys, start extending some of your young guys, and I would start with Kobe Turner. Number 2 is either sign a veteran cornerback or draft a cornerback in the first round. That'll be my number 2, and number 3 is trying to get an X receiver. So hey, what up, Robert D? Thanks for joining me. If you have any questions, let me know. But pretty much coming down to the end here, those are my priorities for the Rams this offseason. We will see what happens. They should have a little bit of money available this offseason to go out and do some of those things. And so I can't wait to see what the Rams do. Um, they have a good core of young guys that they can go out there and compete with next season. I mean, they gave the Eagles the best matchup we saw, and so that'll be that. You have good building blocks on this team. Now it's time to even add more depth. I would like to, I don't know if anybody has seen that video of Brenda's song. Uh, is we have Robert D saying Cup staying or going in your mind. He's gone. I mean, from uh there was a little bit of there was a chance that he could come back uh, when McVay was making the rounds the other day, but Leslie pretty much shut that door. It sounds like we'll know by St. Patrick's Day because that's when he has a roster bonus due. I think it's about seven or $7 million that is due to him on St. Patrick's Day. So if they don't find a trade partner, or or they'll probably just release him by then. So there's no way that he makes it past St. Patrick's Day, because he's owed $7 million. So by then they will know what the decision is, whether they've traded him or whether they'll release him by then. So yeah, we'll know by then. I think by Sunday we'll see. Will Rams go after another free agent wide receivers out there? And that would be my question, Robert. Is I they really desperately need an X receiver, just like the Chargers do, and Devontae Adams is out there. We've heard Devontae Adams say that he wants to stay on the West Coast. He would be perfect on this Rams offense along Puka Nakua. I still think that Devontae Adams has a lot left in him. He's not he's not as good as he was with the Packers or the Raiders the first couple years there, but he can offer a lot for both of the two teams here in LA. So I could see him ending up with one of the two teams here in LA, or also heard that his that he might end up back with the Packers. We had Adam Hill on the show on regular compas, and he talked about that the number one team that everybody expects him to sign with is the Green Bay Packers. So going back to the team that originally drafted him. But I think after that, I think the two LA teams are probably the two teams that will go after him, and it's not going to cost you that much to go out and get him. But we'll see. I know that Sean McVay really liked Allen Robinson and he was a bust. I don't think you need to pay him that type of money, but I think he would work out well here with the Rams, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. There's a lot news coming the next couple of days. You have the tampering window opens on Monday for free agency, and then the new league year begins on March 12th. So I know for regular compas, we'll have the four compas on Monday, and we'll have Tyler Dragon on with us to join us to break down what he saw at the combine, and then also kind of give us his reaction to some of the deals. I'm sure we'll get some of the deals, even though it's the tampering window opening up on Monday. I'm sure we'll hear a lot of the deals being made on Monday. But yeah, and then on Wednesday we're gonna have on our guy, one of our compas, Eric Williams, will be on with us on Wednesday. We'll kind of recap some of the deals that have happened by then. And so make sure you join us for those. And I'll be back now, whether I have on Fernando, I'll try to get someone else on until Gilbert comes back and joins us once again. Most likely, I think we won't see Gilbert till around April, around the draft. So it'll be me and then someone else, but I'm going to be here every week now, especially if news continues to pop out like it's been for the Rams. I'm sure there's going to be some free agent news we'll talk about next week, but my plan is to be on here as long as there's news the next every week. If not, I'll have someone on and kind of talk to be able to talk Rams. So stay tuned. Thank you for thanks to Robert for giving having joining us and getting the comment section going there. But I really appreciate everybody. Thank you for being patient. I know we've been gone for about a month, and so I wanted to make sure we went through all the off-season stuff that's been going on for the past month that has to do with the Rams. But yeah, it looks like this team is going to just continue to add depth to their team. And now that Stafford is back, you have Stafford back, Tutu Atwell's back, you have Alaric Jackson back, and then I mean Rob Havenstein, Tyler Higbee. So their offense is set to go. They're just going to continue to add more and more players to this roster to make a run at the Super Bowl. I think this is, you know, the Rams are going to be one of those teams that a lot of people are going to pick to go to the Super Bowl, especially now that Stafford is back. And if they can continue to add pieces here and there, like I said, whether it's the receiver, corner, and then I would like to also see a linebacker. That would be good, a veteran linebacker, a Nick Bolton kind of guy. But the Rams never pay for linebackers, so I don't expect it. They'll probably, uh, draft someone and then have them plug in, and then once they draft him, once their 4 years are done, they'll move on. That's just the way Leslie likes to do things, and but yeah, they need to find that cornerback. But thanks to everybody who joined me. Like I said, Robert, thank you for getting the comments going. I'll be back. Like I said, make sure you join us on Monday, and then Wednesday we'll talk some Rams on there. We'll ask Tyler Dragon and Eric Williams. So, yes, thank you for being on with us. It's been it was a little bit weird getting used to being by myself, but I've done it a couple of times during the regular season, and it's and so and having a couple people join in the comments, that's also pretty cool. So. Until next week, yeah, just stay safe out there. There's a lot. It's raining here in LA, so I've already seen a couple of accidents. So make sure you guys stay safe out there. I'll see you guys next week when we have another show. But yep, that's